Chapter 7. Rebekah. The story of Isaac and Rebekah coming together is one of the most beautiful stories in the Bible. The circumstances of their marriage is so romantic, it is almost like a fairy tale. After Sarah, Abram's wife, had been dead for 3 years, Abram felt that it was time for his son Isaac to be married, as he was now 40 years old. So he commissioned the eldest servant, who ruled over all his house, to go in search of a bride and bring her back for him. He specifically told him not to look for a girl from amongst the Canaanites, where he was living, but to go back to his own country, his own people, and take a suitable woman from there. The servant swore to Abraham that he would follow all his instructions, and after preparing 10 camels with gifts and provisions, went to the city of Nahor in Mesopotamia, where Abram had come from, and prayed to the Lord for guidance. I'm going to read now from Genesis 24, verses 12 to 21. O Lord God of my master Abraham, I pray you, send me good speed this day, and show kindness to my master Abram. Behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water. And let it come to pass that the damsel to whom I shall say, Let down your pitcher, I pray you, that I may drink, and she shall say, Drink, and I will give your camels drink also. Let the same be she that you have appointed for your servant Isaac, and thereby shall I know that you have showed kindness unto my master. And it came to pass, before he had done speaking, that behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abram's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. The damsel was very fair to look upon, a virgin, neither had any man known her. And she went down to the well, and filled her pitcher, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her, and said, Let me, I pray you, drink a little water from your pitcher. And she said, Drink, my lord. And she hasted, and let down her pitcher upon her hand, and gave him drink. And when she had done giving him drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also, until they have been done drinking. And she hurried, and emptied her pitcher into the trough, and ran again unto the well to the water, and drew for all his camels. And the man, wondering at her, held his peace, waiting to see whether the Lord has made his journey prosperous or not. The servant could hardly believe what had just taken place. No sooner had he said the prayer and made the suggestion to God about what should be the sign than it happened. And God sent a young virgin to him. She was not only beautiful, but she was extremely ready and willing to put herself out for a stranger who had 10 thirsty camels to water. And that in itself showed the caliber of this young woman. The servant took jewelry and gold from the bags which had been loaded onto his camels to pay her for her hard work. He then asked whose daughter she was, and whether there would be any room in her father's house to lodge him, the men who had come with him, and his camels. He had travelled far and was not going to miss this God-given opportunity. I'm the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bare unto Nahor. We have both straw and provender enough, and room to lodge in. This is Genesis 24. The Lord not only answered his brief prayer immediately, but he had just witnessed a miracle, for the Lord had brought him straight to Abram's brother Nahor's house. He bowed his head and worshipped. Genesis 24:26. Blessed be the Lord God of my master Abram, who has not left destitute my master of his mercy and his truth. I being in the way, the Lord led me to the house of my master's brethren. The servant explained his mission to the family, and Rebekah agreed to go with him the following morning to become the wife of a man she had only heard about from a total stranger. Abram's servant had been a wonderful ambassador for his master. He was taking home God's choice. Genesis 24, verses 61 to 67 says this. And Rebekah arose and her damsels, and they rode upon the camels and followed the man. And the servant took Rebekah and went his way. And Isaac came from the way of the well Lahairoi, for he dwelt in the south country. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at the eventide. And he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, the camels were coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she lighted off the camel. For she had said unto the servant, What man is this that walketh in the field to meet us? And the servant had said, It is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. This was the one. She was perfect, and had been singled out for him by God. It is therefore quite amazing that as Isaac was the son of promise to Abraham, God had chosen a woman for him who was, in fact, barren. I find it amazing that with every plan of God, there are hurdles to overcome. Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, and for the next 20 years he entreated God to open her womb. When God was finally entreated and allowed Rebekah to conceive, she had terrible complications in her pregnancy. She was in such pain that she inquired of God why this was so, and God spoke to her. Genesis 25:23. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 manner of people shall be separated from your bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. We must remember here that God has spoken directly to Rebekah. She was the one who was going through this trial. She was the one inquiring of the Lord. And it was to her he gave the answer, which was indeed a prophecy, a promise of what was to come. Just like Mary, the mother of Jesus, she kept all these things locked away tightly in her heart, refusing to forget them, and waited for the fulfillment. Laban's sister. Upon reading the way Rebekah reacted when she first met Abraham's servant, her consideration for the travellers and their camels, her willingness to be taken away from her family and country to become the wife of someone a complete stranger told her about, she gives the impression that she is a sweet, compliant, godly girl, and so she may well have been. But it would do well to remember she had come from the same parents as her notorious brother Laban. We are all products of our environment, and it is easy to see what sort of family background she had when we observe the way her brother treated Jacob later on. Isaac must have been convinced that he was nearing the end of his life, and so felt the need to set his house in order before he met his Maker. Rebekah overheard Isaac talking with Esau, the elder son, about passing on the blessing, and immediately alarm bells began ringing. What about the promise she'd received when she was pregnant? Had Isaac completely forgotten what God had said to her? She knew Isaac had put all his energies into training Esau, but because of what God had said, she loved Jacob and knew that it was his divine right to receive the blessing as God had, in his own wisdom and for his own reasons, reversed the order. Quickly she ran off to put her proposal to Jacob. Genesis 27 verse 6. Behold, I heard your father speak unto Esau your brother, saying, Bring me venison, and make me savoury meat that I may eat, and bless you before the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command you. Rebekah then told Jacob to bring her a couple of kids from the flock, and she would make the meal that Isaac was asking for, so that Jacob could take it to him and get the blessing his brother Esau should have received. Jacob was worried because he could see obvious complications. Esau was a hairy man whilst he was smooth. His father might be blind, but he would know it wasn't Esau if he heard and touched him. Rebekah would not listen to his objections. She could handle it. She had everything under control. Hastily she dressed him in Esau's clothing so that he smelled like his brother. and put the skins of the kids upon the backs of his hands and the smooth of his neck to fool her husband. She could see Jacob was scared of what would happen if his father smelled a rat and caught him red-handed trying to steal what wasn't his. He knew he was pushing his luck because already he cheated his brother out of his birthright when he made him promise to give it him in exchange for a bowl of porridge when he was famished. His father would not bless him if he caught him in the act of deception. Rather, he would curse him, and his fate would be worse than if he had just left things as they were. But Rebekah wasn't going to let this opportunity pass. She took matters into her own hands and told Jacob that if Isaac did find out and cursed him, then the curse would be upon her own head and Jacob would be free. So desperate was she to see her favoured son receive the blessing that she was willing to be cursed. If she hadn't been so deceitful, she could have sounded like Moses or Paul. Women are much more deceivious than men. They use their instincts and cunning, not their brawn, to manipulate. Rebekah was prepared to run the risk of being cursed herself if only she could see her son blessed. Rebekah's plan worked, and Jacob duped his father, thus swindling his brother yet again. Oh, Rebekah, Rebekah, what were you thinking of when you talked Jacob into cheating his father? Why didn't you set your son a godly example that would help him in his future life by showing him that God could be trusted to bring about his promises without your interference and trickery? You left your old life, your biological family environment, with all its conniving, swindling ways and false gods 20 years ago. But perhaps the fear of all God had promised coming to naught after she had believed for all those years made her forget that she was now in a secure family, serving a God who had spoken to her, with whom she had now had her own personal relationship. She may have left her biological family, but their genes were still part of her makeup, and the devil was only too eager to entice her to fall back into the old lifestyle when her faith began to slip. Be careful, little eyes. Mothers, it's very important that you understand what influence you have on your children. For all the years they are with you, those little penetrating eyes are watching you and see everything. You may think they're only taking notice of what you tell them, but they see your actions, your attitudes, your resentments, your outbursts, the silent contempt, everything. Their experience of life is not the same as yours, so very often they don't understand why you do the things you do. But be assured of this, they will copy you. They are your reflection. They will not only copy your good points, but very often they will embarrass you by exposing what you try to hide. To know what the home situation is like, you only have to observe the children.